thank you very much for showing up. I appreciate it. You know, talk about getting older. This is something I never dreamed of. I never expected that I would be asked to come to a library and talk out loud. I can't tell you growing up how many times I went to the library as a little kid because I lived in the middle of a state that only had ponds around and it was hot, and I'd want to ride my bike to the pond or the lake to go swimming, but I was young and my mother didn't want me to do that because, you know, the whole drowning thing. And she, no. So my only solace was to go sit under a tree or go to the library. And when I found the library, I thought that was wonderful, but probably for at least a good 3 years, I was told to be quiet at least 6 times. For those of you that know me, you know that's not a surprise. I mean, there were times I would be there by myself and I'd be like, wow, look at that. You know, so to be invited to come and actually make noise in a library, this is exciting for me. And I encourage you to make noise too, enjoy yourself, have a good time. Let me just give you a little bit of information about my background. I'm a gerontologist, and I have been for 38 years. And that's somebody who studies how society, individuals, and institutions age. What happens when a community and a people and a person and an institution, like Yavapai colleges and institutions, what happens when they age, when their demographics change? Well, I can tell you right here at Yavapai College, what we do is we develop a division of lifelong learning, and we see 4,800 unduplicated students a year through our non-credit classes. So that's what this institution did, and I think they made a good choice because I think we're doing all right with that. But so for 38 years, I've been looking at aging issues, talking about aging issues. I'm one of those people that if you bring me to a party and someone says an ageist joke, I'll ruin the party. Because I can't not say, you know, that's wrong. What you just said is cute. Cute, but it's wrong. And it's full of misinformation, and we probably shouldn't say that anymore, should we? And then the good news about that is I don't really like going to parties that much, so I don't get invited back. It's kind of a self-rewarding behavior on my part, so it's kind of cool. But I've written a book called Sex, Drugs, and Growing Old, A Boomer's Guide to Aging. I can't sell this to you today, no matter how much money you gave me in the parking lot, because I'm working for Yavapai College. As you know, I'm the dean, and since the state gives us less than 2% of the money from the state, they have restrictions on what I can do in terms of making my life better on their dime. They say in no way, shape, or form can you improve your life on state money. Not going to happen. So I can't sell you the book here, but it's on Amazon, it's on Kindle, and you can order it. It's fun because every once in a while I'll get a notice. Hey, you sold a book in Kansas, which is exciting because that means I'm going to get about $4.65 in my check account the next time. So that's exciting. I did a radio show in this area for a couple years called Successful Aging Radio on NPR and PRI International. That was an enjoyable time. Traveled the country for 6 or 7 years doing pre-retirement training seminars. A lot of what I'm going to talk about here comes out of the years I spent in the field, and totally enjoyed myself doing that. But it got a little tiring, and I thought a little bit more control of my life would be good, so I came to Yavapai College 15 years ago. I got my 15-year anniversary pin yesterday for sticking around for, yeah, pretty good. Yeah. Who says I don't know when to quit? So I was proud of that, and been working doing lifelong learning stuff. So that's enough of what I've been doing. Let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. Who will I be when I'm older? I don't know. As I said, I'm going to get to that. When I traveled the country for about those 6 or 7 years doing the pre-retirement seminars, I'm a gerontologist. I told you, they send an attorney to do these seminars with me because they didn't trust me to do any of the financial part, and they were smart about that. When I interviewed, they asked me some financial questions, and they said, well, you can have the job, but we're not going to let you talk about finances at all. You do the gerontology stuff. And essentially, the attorneys would go out and they would talk about how to handle your money so you could live happily ever after, right? That's what you get when you get your free steak dinner at the Golden Corral and this. That's what the attorneys are telling you, how to handle your money so you can live happily ever after. My part of the session was, what the heck is happily ever after? What does that look like? So it really was a great balance. I enjoyed it because the financial guys could take care of that. I took care of the life management piece of things. And I didn't have to sell anything at those seminars, which made it easier for me because the companies had already paid for us to come in. So I didn't have to say, here's your 7 problems as you get older. And by the way, for $99.99, I got your 7 solutions here. I didn't have to do that. I could just speak what I considered the truth for people. And that's an important part of my life, is trying to get to the truth about things that are going on. So I hope you didn't come for any financial advice. I don't have any, really. One of the things that I do know when I did these retirement seminars, it would crack me up. People would say, when I retire, I can't wait. I cannot wait to retire. I'm going to get to do everything I ever wanted to do. Right? Yeah, look at yourselves. In the whole group, it would be like 100 people, 200 people. They'd all turn into bobblehead dolls when I did that. They'd be like, yes, true. I'm going to get to do everything I ever wanted to do. Except I just have no idea what I want to do, because I've been so busy working to get to this point in my life that I've lost sense of who I am. In some cases, I've lost track of my family. In some cases, I've lost track of my spouse, and now I'm on to another one, and that's a whole nother challenge. So, this notion of I'm going to get to do everything I ever wanted to do was always a challenge. And the other thing that I'd hear in those seminars that used to crack me up with the financial people. Okay, and they put their hands up. Yes? What state should I move to where I have the less taxes?
Arizona.
Yeah. And when I'd hear that question, I would think, oh my God, I got a lot of work to do when I get up in front of this group. Because this person's thinking, yes, I've lived here for 40 years, but I'm going to move someplace where it's cheap. I'm like, oh no. And furthermore, they found out I lived on Cape Cod at the time in Massachusetts. Great place to live. Everybody tries to come down for vacations. And I'd say, I live on Cape. Oh, you live on Cape Cod? Really? How much is milk? I'd be like, what are you talking about? I mean, we're thinking about retiring, and how much do you pay for milk? And I'd be like, it's $1.85 or something. Oh, we're not coming there. That's too much. And my point is, how about living where you want to live and making that work for yourself? When I lived on Cape Cod, it's pretty much like living in Prescott. I lived on vacation. I lived at vacation. People would save up for a year to rent a house for 4 days on Cape Cod and spend all their money to be there, regardless of what the cost of milk was. And I lived there. I didn't have to worry about where I was going to go to. I was living the life that I wanted to live. So what I'm talking about with that is, take responsibility and take charge of your life as best you can. The idea of moving to a state or a city that milk's 15 cents less a gallon just doesn't get to me. But people get caught up doing that kind of stuff. The other things that I've heard in my years of doing this is 3 things crack me up. I tell people I work in aging. They're like, you work with older people? Oh, you must be a nice guy. Right? And I'm like, no, not particularly. Not really. I mean, I try to be, but not really. You know, oh, really? Then the other thing they say is, oh, I just love all older people. I'm like, really? Have you met my neighbor? He's not lovable. And he's never going to be lovable, quite frankly. He wakes up in the morning trying to figure out how he can not be lovable. I can guarantee you that because I know my neighbor. And the other thing that cracks me up is they say, oh, you work with older people? Yeah. And you've been doing it for 38 years? I'm like, yes, I have. 38 years in the field. It's very fascinating. It's a broad field. You know, the breadth and depth of gerontology is sexuality, healthcare, ethics, education, you name it, politics, you name it. It's all involved in the field of gerontology. That's why I love the field, because I'm never going to know all that I need to know to be an expert in the field. It's going to keep me moving and shaking on stuff. But the third thing I said, they're like, oh, you work with older people? Yeah. That's going to be important someday. Yeah, and I'm like, someday? Yeah, I've been doing it for 38 years. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, it's going to be important. It really is. Keep up the good work. I'm like, all right, I'll keep up the good work. I'm seeing what's going on. So those are just some introductory remarks. I want to shift from that because I know I've done this for years. There's people in the audience who are like, yeah, it's kind of soft so far. You know, where's the facts? I need some facts. I need data. That's why I parked my car over 3 miles from here because the parking lot's full today and walked all the way over. Give me some data. So for those anal retentive data loving people, I didn't want to leave you out. I've got this in here. Since January 12th, 10,000 people have turned 65 every day. 10,000 people turn 65 years of age every day. And we have them all here at Yavapai. Location, location, location. You think I don't know what I'm doing? I know what I'm doing. I had a performance review with a boss one time, and he was saying nice things, and I thought, yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Would you sign it? And he goes, sure. He signs my review. And I said, listen, Stuart, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but if there's somebody in my job, in this position, given our demographics in our community that isn't doing a good job, they're really not very good at what they do. So I already made him sign it first because I didn't want him to change his mind about that. In 1987, 30 million people over 65. Today, 46 million people over 65 years of age. In 2020, which, by the way, used to be a way out into the future, 2020, that's like, I won't even get last year's credit cards paid off by the time that shows up for the holiday season. By 2020, 53.7 million people over 65. Phew. By 2030, which is only 10 years after that, we're going 53.7 to 70.3 million people when the full push of the baby boomers come through. So people are living longer, healthier lives. Again, this is for the statistics folks in the group. Life expectancy is a term we hear. That's how long you can expect to live. Tricky how they use those words to describe that concept. How long you can expect to live. And then the other term is lifespan. Life expectancy, lifespan theory. Here's a question for you. In the absence of disease, and this is lifespan theory, in the absence of disease, how long do you think you can live? Denny, you can't answer. You've been in my class. And the worst thing would be is if you answered wrong, and because I know you know, I would be like, oh, here goes my career. In the absence of disease, how long do you think you can live? 120. 120. Nice job. It's true. 120 years of age. Wow. Isn't that something? Yeah. Now, there was a woman in France named Jean Calumet who years ago passed that mark. And I can remember sitting at my kitchen table back on Cape Cod, and that was over 15 years ago, and I'm reading about her. And I got all excited, and I said to my wife, I said, honey, there's a woman in France that just blew lifespan theory out of the water. And my wife, who doesn't like gerontology as much as I do, said, "Are you going to take out the trash today?" I mean, this was like a milestone in my career. This woman lived past 120 years of age, and she actually, on her 120th birthday, she got international attention. Everybody from all around the world came to see what she was doing. And they asked her, "How are you doing? What's going on?" "Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it." "What's going on? How did you live this long?" Because they wanted to know. And you know what she told them?
I didn't die.
Yeah, no, well, that's true. She didn't die. Smart guys in the front row. She had dark chocolate, antioxidants, and red wine. Antioxidants. I was thrilled to hear that because I thought, apparently, I am on the road to health. This whole roughage thing is just, you know, it was kind of a fad. It came and went. But I'm on the road to health with chocolate and wine. This is a good deal. She lived on her 121st birthday. She released a CD to take care of those. And the proceeds from the sale of the CD went to help the people that she lived with, you know, those 119-year-olds, those kids that she was living with. The proceeds from the sale of her CD went to help the people in the place that she was living. What I like about this story is she wasn't a singer prior to this. I never heard the videos or the CD, so I can't tell you if she was in the end either. But she wasn't a singer. She learned something new. She challenged herself to be creative, and the proceeds of the sales went to help other people. That's a good formula for successful living, let alone successful aging. Take care of yourself, challenge yourself, give to other people. That's a good deal. She lived to 122 in 6 months. Pretty good, huh? I'll tell you another side story. Some people know this story, but in France, they have a real estate situation where if you're in a place, I can buy your house while you still live there. And then when you pass away, I get to, you know, move into the house. It's a deal. And an attorney bought her house from her when she was 85 or 86. She left to 122 in 6 months. You see the problem with that? Yeah, it was not a good deal for him. He thought he had the whole thing all set up, but she just blew lifespan theory right out of the water. So life expectancy, right? That's, you know, from birth, how long do you think you can live? And I'm going to give you from birth on some, and I'm going to give you at 65. If you made age 65 last year, in 2015, you could expect to live, both men and women, 19.4 years. So if your 65th birthday was on 2015, you could expect to live 19.4 more years. That's 20.6 for women and 18 years for males. Women outlive men by 6 or 7 years. It used to be longer, but it's getting shorter, the difference between that. If you made it to 75 in 2015, you could expect to live another 12.3 years. That would be to 87.3 years of age. Women, that's 13 more years, men 11.5. If you made it to 85, because I know someone here is like, well, what about 85? You never talked about 85. Well, I did talk about 85 right now. If you make it to 85, you can expect to live 6.4 more years on average. Men and women to 91.4 years of age. Now, I have to caution you, because I can see some of your faces right now. You're like, I gotta call mom. No, don't call mom. Don't. She doesn't need to know this, really. You know, you need to know that mom may be only around another 6 years. So get on it, respect her, appreciate being around her. But you don't need to call her like, did you get any bananas this week? I'm not sure that was the best move. That's a terrible old joke, but it was an easy one to throw in there. Life expectancy. So the takeaway for some of you, and I can't argue with this because you won't hear it anywhere else, the older you get, the greater chance you have of living longer. Go ahead, write that down. You're going to want to write that down and save it for the future. Yeah, the older you get, the greater chance you have of living longer, because life expectancy gets shorter, but you're living longer at the same time. And it's something you're always going to have until you don't have any more of it. So the next party you go to, share that with people. They'll be, you can tell them you heard it at Embry-Riddle. All right. How do we handle this, 70 million people over 65? How do we start to sort that out? Well, one of the things we used to do, old age. That was one thing. But now we talk about young, old, and old. 65 to 74 is young, old. I love watching your faces when I do this. You're like, missed it, just missed it. 75 to 84 is old. And 85 and older is old. And the reason we do that is we have to kind of subset such a large population in order to get a real handle on what are the life changes within these things? Who are you going to be when you're older? It depends on how old you are and what's going on in your life. And to just lump older people into, the gray hair, no hair, blue hair basket is a disservice and wrong. You won't see the population for what they were. When I was on Cape Cod, I worked for an organization that had to do a needs assessment. And we were doing a long needs assessment of what people need in the future. And guy called me up and he said, you're working on a needs assessment? Yes, we are. And I did my needs assessment, and what's yours? Is it comprehensive and thorough? And I said, well, I think so, but it's really from 60 to 120. And he kind of had an attitude when he called me. I could hear that right away. And so I said, so that's I don't know about comprehensive and thorough. We're doing the best we can for 60 years. Well, I would expect it to be comprehensive and thorough. So I said, okay, I have a deal for you. He worked with younger people. You do a thorough, complete assessment for the future from birth to 60. And when you're done with your thorough, complete, solid needs assessment, I'll start mine from 60 to 120. How's that? And there was silence on the end of the line there. Because how do you take a large demographic swath like that and try to be thorough and complete about it? You can't. You can take some reasonable guesses about what's going on there to try to get a handle of what you want to look at. But that's how we classify. Nationally, 14.9% of people over 65 in the country right now. Arizona, what do you think the number is in Arizona? Huh? 100%?
60%.
Yeah, no.
22%.
19? Yeah. What do you think about Yavapai County? What percent is over 65?
33.
Well, you're smarty pants, aren't you? It's 30. It's 30. You've been going to the churches where that's almost 100%. And that's one of the issues with institutions. They've got to be able to change with an aging demographic. And a lot of the churches are having problems with this because of changing attitudes about formal religion by people and younger people coming in, or people coming in who have children who need childcare, and how do they and bring them into the institution so that people get what they need out of it. You got to stay forward thinking about this kind of stuff. So we're growing like we never have before. It's a good thing. It's a challenge, however. The baby boomers, those people born between 1946 and 1964, they're the ones that are pushing this demographic trends that we're seeing right now. And they've always had the ability to change our culture. I mean, I think back to when I was little, as a baby boomer, we had a whole country believing it was fashionable to wear a dead animal on our head. The Daniel Boonskin caps. Think about the power of that generation. Hey, it would look good, a dead animal on your head. That would be great. It would be awesome. And not only that, everybody went out and bought them. I remember, like, I want one. Mom, I want one of those. No, you're not wearing that. No, you're not having. But Jimmy's got one. I know, but, and then Ralph, he's got one. No, you can't wear that animal on your head. I'm not buying you one of those. Think about the power we had when we were young, let alone now that we've accumulated some resources. We've accumulated more knowledge. We've accumulated more friendship and connections. We've accumulated the ability, hopefully, although I don't see it all the time, critical thinking. We are a powerful generation, and we should be able to do something with this. And I think it's interesting to me, and it is, to see the young kids now in the high schools right now with what's going on, stepping up. I'm like, wow, I've seen this before. And it heartens me that they are feeling like they have a voice and that people are listening, regardless of what side they are talking about, really. The fact that the younger generation is starting to go, wait, we need to have a voice in this. And I think the secret will be for us to listen and not reject right away because, oh, it's not formed the way I would. Well, you're 68 years old. Of course, you've had more experience forming your presentations. I listened to them at the CNN thing last night. They're trying their best to be articulate and form their ideas the way they want and present what they want to say. Are they really sharp about it? Not necessarily. Am I talking about it today? Yes. Were they good last night? Enough to make me talk about it today. So let's give them credit for that. I think that's an exciting step that we've got going on. So we're moving faster and faster. There's no doubt about it in our culture. I saw a quote the other day about aging. It made me laugh. It said, growing older is like a roll of toilet paper. The more you use, the faster you get to the end. And I thought, that's kind of true. We don't know why we seem to, the calendar seems to speed up as we get older. We go faster and faster and faster. In the field of gerontology, there's no one really that's been able to put forward any reason for that. It certainly has to do with our expectations and our experience of life and what's going on. I mean, we have pagers, beepers, faxes, all the technology that makes our life go faster. But I'm not sure it needs to go, is it going better? If you were here last Thursday, you would have heard Dr. Shelley talk about technology and its benefit and challenges to us. I remember one time I was traveling on the road. I was in the bathroom, in the hotel room, doing what you do. And I look to the right, there's a phone on the wall. And I think, what deal is so important that I have to have a phone at my disposal right now? This is when they had them on the wall with cords. Like, hi, yeah, kind of busy. Yeah, that sounds like a good markup right there. Yeah, okay. Well, listen, I got a lot of paper here, but I don't have a pen right now. Can I that gives me a whole new take on reach out and touch someone. No, thank you. Leave me alone. We need to be able to downshift. We need places we can hang out. If you can't hang out in the bathroom without anybody bothering you, we're going too fast as a culture. You got to be able to ride in the car and pretend you're an opera singer and sing and release tension and stress in your life and see what's going on. Retirement, as I said when I was doing those seminars, I'm going to do everything I ever wanted to do. And here's an example that's traditional in aging. It says, when I retire, you know what I'm going to do? My wife and I, we're going to rent an RV and drive around the country and then die. And I would say, when I was younger, I'd say that's a good plan, drive slow. Because it's going to, you only lived 5 to 7 years in retirement, 15, 20 years ago. But now we're living 15, 20, maybe 30 years into retirement. So we're not talking about recreation and leisure in the old way. We're talking about how do you bring purpose and meaning to your life. And that's one of the things, again, that I think we do really well here at Yavapai College with our Division of Lifelong Learning and the credit side of the house. We try to provide opportunities for you, like this, to bring purpose and meaning to your life. Now, you'll be the judge at the end of this, whether this was purposeful or meaningful. That's your job. But it's an opportunity for you to experience some new things and try some new stuff, which you're going. So the other thing that we hear before I get to an activity I want to do with you, because I'm talking too much already. One of the things I hear now all the time, since we have lengthened our experience of what aging means, we hear people saying in the corporate world and in the commercial world and the popular press world, you know, as you get older, you really need to reinvent yourself to be able to fit into the world of work. And I was at a conference on aging a couple years ago, probably 800 people in a room. And the people up there were saying this. And I told you I've been in this field for 38 years. And reinvent yourself. You know, like, does that mean I'm not good enough right now? Why would I need to reinvent myself? I've been trying to be somebody for 62 years. Now all of a sudden I have to reinvent so that I can mesh with the world of whatever that's out there. Why can't I be who I am, but make some adjustments? So I put my hand up, and you know, those of you that know me, you'll be shocked. They're like, Dennis, 800 people. There he goes again. Wait a minute, can I say something? I don't even know who I am now at 62 years of age. And you're telling me that's not good enough given our current situation of aging in the world of work, etc. I have to reinvent myself. Can't I just refocus? Can I develop some new skills at a local college? Can I do some new activities or hobbies or vocations that I would like to do? Can't that be enough? Why would I have to reinvent the whole bundle of who I am? I thought that was a disservice, and they didn't like it, so I told them. So here's what I want you to do. The title is, Who Will I Be When I'm Older? This activity I've been doing for a long, long time, and I'd love to have you join me on this. I'm going to give you a guided meditation. How about that? Would that be fun? So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. Watch your purses, though, because I don't know everybody in the room. I can't vouch for, you know, put it between your knees or something. Close your eyes, and let's go into the future. 10 years. It's 2028. That's funny right there. It's 2028, and I want you to think about answers to these questions. What are you doing? How do you feel? What's important in your life? Who's in your life and why are they there? What are you doing? How do you feel? What's important? Who's in your life? So when you get that image, come back to the room, and I would ask you to share with me. What'd you see? 10 years from now. That was deafening. Don't try all shouting out your answers at the same time. Yes?
I see myself having another student in my shop. Come from some place to learn what I have to teach in boot making.
You worked on some of my boots one time.
I thought you would.
Yeah, thanks. Nice job.
Thank you. I'm still with my wife because that was the plan when we met in high school.
Yeah.
We'd be on the porch together.
Yeah.
What was some more of your questions?
Well, you're still doing boot making.
Yeah.
You're still with your wife.
Yeah.
How do you feel?
Pretty healthy
Pretty good?
because my mother's 93, so I figure I'm, it's possible.
Right. Well, remember I told you don't call her, given that life
That's right.
expectancy stuff. Just keep that to yourself. Great. Who else had some views? Yes.
I'm still working my astronomy hobby.
Okay.
I'm out in the dark,
Yeah.
late at night,
Yeah.
feeling great, chilly,
Yeah.
and visiting my girlfriend every now and then.
Doing what you love to do.
Yep.
Is this your wife next to you? Is
No.
this the news? Breaking news
My
here?
next wife.
Anyone else want to share? All right, close your eyes again. Let's go 20 years into the future. It's 2038. Same questions. How do you feel? What's important to you? What are you doing? Who's in your life? Yes, sir.
Not as healthy physically.
Okay, changing, right? Adaptation may be something we need to be thinking about.
More aches and pains,
Absolutely. Sure.
canes, walkers.
Maybe.
God, I'm depressed.
Yeah. 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 What else did you see 20 years into the future? You're dead? All right. Could you tell us what you saw out there? I mean, people write books on this all the time, and I'm curious. What else? Yes. Thanks.
Parents with Alzheimer's are scared to death.
Okay. You're afraid of dementia in the future. All right. What are you doing, though? Besides being scared?
Hopefully I'm just still functioning as I am. Can't tell,
Doing what you like to do?
hopefully.
All right. Let's do one more thing into the future, and then I'll let you off the hook. The year is 2048.
I'm 107.
Here you go. You're just a chicken. You can live to 120 in the absence of disease. All right, I'm not even going to ask you. Look around right now. I love doing this activity. I've done it in groups of 600 and in small groups. 10 years out, I ask you to close your eyes. Sure. Okay. Well, you know, I was gardening and I was doing my boot making and I was still with my wife, doing things I like to do. Okay. Let's go 20 years out. One eye goes down. People can't close both eyes 20. And when I ask you 30 years, everybody here had their eyes open. I didn't see anybody who closed both eyes. They're like, nope, not happening. I don't know what's out there. I'm not closing my eyes. This woman died at 20. Now I got to go 30 years out? That's not very good. That's scary, right? But here's the thing. If you listened, remember the title is, Who Am I Going to Be When I'm Older? If you listen to what you said, you have the answer right there. You're going to be more of yourself and less like anyone else. Bernice Newgarden, a researcher out of the University of Chicago, has done research and says the older we get, the more we become of who we are. It's called individuation, and less like anyone else. So if I see a group in our Osher Lifelong Learning Program of 20 people, average age 70, there's 140 years of experience in that room. It would be really easy, however, a big mistake for me, to think that they all think the same. No, they've all had 70 years of experience coming from different places in time and different parts of the country, and service and not service, and married and not married, and cultures, etc. They've all brought that into that room, and the mistake we make when we see older people, we think they're homogenous, that they're all the same, but they're more differentiated than any other group. A group of 17-year-old people, you know, have been on the planet for 17 years. Probably only paying attention for 4. Right? Yes?
Can you explain something that I hear all the time?
I'll
I
try.
don't feel like 80, I feel like I'm 40.
Yeah.
Why did that happen?
Well, because I think we've been told that to grow older is to be less intelligent, less beautiful, less handsome, less physically able, less. It's in the water, it's in our culture. Think about the children's books that we read growing up. I remember reading my kids, and here I'm a gerontologist, right? And I remember reading my kids, you know, the two little brother and sister that get lost in the woods. You know, they get lost in the woods, and it's dark, and it's scary, and I'm like, oh, geez, this is scary. And I'm reading it myself for the 15th time or 30th. And then they come upon a house that has the yellow window where the light's shining out. Oh, hope. There you go. That's yellow. That color yellow to me is hope, and oh, this is going to be good. Saving them, right? And then the older brother always talks the younger sister into knocking on the door. Like, go knock on the door, see what happens. And when the younger sister knocks on the door, who comes out?
Witch.
A witch. An old, ugly witch that's going to eat them. And then we kiss our kids on the cheek and say, have a nice sleep, honey. See you in the morning. So, I mean, that image of aging as less, it permeates an awful lot of how we think in our culture. So, you know, I'm active. I do water aerobics. I try to stay as healthy as I can, more or less. I want to enjoy myself along the way, too. So I try to find that balance in things. And it's our outer manifestation, although, and this is what I like about aging, it's our inner thought processes that get to us sometimes. Oh, I'm old, I can't do that. What do you expect from me? One of the things that drives me nuts is, oh, I'm having a senior moment. No, you're not. Oh, yeah, I am. No, you forgot something. Is this the only time in your life you've ever forgotten something? You know, I write in my book, I remember in college, I lost my car for a whole weekend after a Friday night. I didn't know where it was. Somebody had to call me up on Sunday afternoon and go, I think you left it down at the whatever. Oh, yeah, that's where it is. It wasn't a senior moment, I forgot. Yeah.
Can I follow up on that?
Sure.
In other countries like Japan or Kazakhstan,
Yeah.
old people, do they have a different image of themselves?
Yeah, although, and this comes up frequently, it's changing. We talk about Japan and China where older people are revered and they're held in high esteem. What studies have been showing is that as those countries become more in the world market, more capitalistic in a sense, the status of older people in their countries are dropping.
Because they're not productive.
Yeah. You're not productive. And if you're not producing, what good are you? And think of how sad that is. You know, all this knowledge and wisdom and experience. And not all of this knowledge and experience, because that's another thing that drives me crazy, is, you know, oh, I love all old people. The other thing I hear is, oh, they're all so wise. No, they're not. Oh, yes, they are. They're all wise. That'd be nice. Wouldn't that be nice? If all we had to do was get older to become wise? To me, though, in spiritual eldering, oh, they're the elder, they're the wise one. Maybe not. You know? I think if you've done the work to challenge yourself on a daily basis, to learn new things, to explore new things, to hear new things, to park here and get to this session and hopefully hear something new that you can use in your life. If you've done that work, I'll give you a nod towards starting to be wise because you're doing the work to get there. But you don't just get there by getting up every morning. You've got to do some activities to help you get to that place in time.
So I guess they figure the old guy is the wise one because he's made all the mistakes. But
Well,
he's
yeah.
still making mistakes.
Oh, and some of the mistakes turn into good things, you know? Yeah. Well, you know, it's like when we were hunter-gatherers and stress. You know, stress is a big part of our lives. My theory on stress is that those people that were stressed when we were hunter-gatherers actually procreated and lived longer and genetically put that stress into our body, because those that weren't paying attention and they went down to the water hole at the wrong time, you didn't see them again.
One of the things I know as I get older, the older I get each year, the more I say, and I have to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
What's behind that?
Intelligence. And I'm not trying to suck up, but you're self-aware. you realize, no, I don't know as much as I think I used to know. And
Well,
that's
you're not as
okay.
quick you're not as quick to argue and say, I know. You sit back and you say, I really don't know the answer. And people look at
You come to Ali
as a-
classes, right?
Yeah, and as,
Everybody's arguing in that room.
well, yeah, but you get a lot of younger people that ask you, well, you're old enough, you know, what's your perspective?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Sure.
And I come back and I say, I don't know.
Yeah. I say, I'll tell you what I think,
Okay,
and we'll leave it at that, and then figure if there's something new.
okay.
If there's a third way to get to this. My wife has always told me when we would argue that there's a third way, Dennis. And I'm kind of simple-minded in some areas, and I would laugh, which was always a mistake. But I'd laugh and I'd be like, honey, there can't be a third way because there isn't even your way in this argument. My way is what I have. But this is why I love being with her. More times than not, she's right. There's a third way. And if I would just back off a little on my assumptions and presumptions, then maybe I can see a third way to get to where we want to go with that. Let's have some questions and stuff here for the next 10 minutes. All right, thanks for coming. Go ahead, yeah.
You mentioned the fact that as you get older, time seems to pass faster.
Yeah,
And I have a theory for that.
good.
When you're 50 and you age 1 year, that's 2% of your life. When you're 10 years old and you age 1 year, that's 10% of your life.
Right.
So your perspective is based on the amount of life you have already lived.
Okay.
So 1 year is a much smaller fraction of your life as you are older than it was when you were younger.
How do you think we could study that?
Hypnotize people into believing they're 10 years old and see if they still think if life is fast.
All right, anybody working on their doctoral project? Because I think we've got something hot there. I would like to see that work out. Thanks. Other questions? Yes, sir.
So you've gone from screeching seagulls to squawking ravens. Have you adjusted well to all this change?
Oh, at first I thought you were insulting me in the presentation. I'm like, where was I a screeching seagull? I think I've behaved myself. I've tried to behave myself. Would you ask your question again? Because really I was over there. Like, why is he picking on
So
me?
you've gone from screeching seagulls
Yeah, Cape Cod.
squawking ravens.
Yes.
Have you well adjusted since then?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the medicine's working, and I'm doing all right. Yeah. There's a saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, wherever you go, there you are. Yeah, and I believe that 100%. When I used to do my retirement seminars, I would tell the people who were trying to save 15 cents on their gallon of milk, wherever you go, there you are. So if you're moving someplace to get away from yourself, you're going to be disappointed. If you move someplace to enhance who you are and you've done the time to think about that, you may very well be rewarded for that because you're doing it for the right purpose and thing. Yeah, I love this community. It's certainly a challenge. It's a mix. Sometimes I feel like I would like to go back to Boston where people say exactly what they mean as soon as they see you. Because it's cold, it's like 17 degrees back there, and people in New England tend to say, like, you know what, I heard your presentation, you don't know what you're talking about, see you later, bye, nice talking to you. They get to it, but being out here, it took me about 4 years to get used to it, because people out here, they're so nice, saying, I heard your presentation, thank you, and I just want to say it was very interesting, and made me think about a lot of things, and I'm like, okay. And after a while, I'm like, okay, get to it. However, there it is. Now I'm going to hear what they have to say. And it doesn't hurt to live around nice people and polite people. It's enjoyable. What else? Yes?
I've noticed the older I get, the less I care about things. Not, do you think that's part of the self-actualization?
No. I think it's a myth. And it's one I'm glad you brought up because I'm going to pick on you now.
like they, you know.
Yeah, you have more perspective on things, so it's less of a concern. What that rang the bell for me was the older person who says, now that I'm older, I can say anything I want. I disagree with that wholeheartedly, because when I hear that, I'm like, no, that's still rude. That's still rude. I don't care if you're 82 or 93. To say exactly what you want without taking the other person into consideration, that could be rude. And I can tell by your tone you love that sword, but it's rude. Don't use it. Think about other people. Denny, you had a question?
Well, I was just curious what you think about, is it possible that we can, because we're growing in these huge numbers, so this adaptation kind of an idea?
Yes?
Is it possible that people who are aging or moving on in life can come to a point of view that this is what they have learned to be when they get to there, that we've accumulated our experiences, our knowledge, our spirituality, all that stuff, and oh boy, now let's make use of it. Let's share.
Oh, sure.
The mentor thing,
Yes.
and have that kind of appreciation for aging rather than what a bummer and a downer.
Oh, yeah. Well, look at Ollie. 800 and something members on this campus alone that come together, join discussion groups, teach one another, and share. What a wonderful way to learn and to share information with one another. And I think it gets back to life experience. In your life experience, we have a different perspective on where we've been, and we're more willing sometimes to share it and less offended if someone has a different view, because we recognize there's 140 years of experience in this room. Maybe if I have a half a brain, I'll listen to some of the other people's opinions and see how that fits in with me. And I almost would, it's kind of like singing. I would say we almost have an obligation to do that the best we can, but some people are not good at that at all, and so they probably shouldn't do that. But, to the best of your ability, mentor, share, help other people along, that's a good deal. Yes? Yeah?
You have met a lot of older people, obviously. Question is, which type of older person lives a happy, good, adjusted life as opposed to another person who lives a terrible, tension-full,
Yes.
upsetting life?
Yeah.
What is your experience with that?
There's personality types, and a mature personality type. This is from my teaching bag of tricks. The mature personality understands that life is full of change and compromise and accommodation, and that's part of life. I need to do these things as I get older. Yeah, the past was the past, and it might not have been that good, but luckily for me, I've got the future, so I'm going to try to get myself in shape for the future and make the most of the experience that I have. That's the mature personality. That's the person who thrives. Then you've got the passive dependent personality. That's the personality, and I saw this when I worked with older people as a case manager or whatever, who you'd go to their home and it would be kind of just, really through no fault of their own, this is who they were, it was kind of falling down around their ears. And as a young social worker, those were the ones that were the most challenging to work with, because they're really good at saying, you know what, thank goodness you're here, Dennis. If it wasn't for you, I don't know what I would do. You're the best. You're really the best. And next thing you know, I worked in elder abuse, trying to figure out what was going on. With those people, next thing you know, I'd have a new refrigerator for them, a new linoleum floor, a new roof. Nowhere closer to finding out where this abuse is coming from, but they would trick me by telling me how important I was, because they were passive dependent. And this is a long answer to your question, but one of the problems with passive dependent people is a lot of people don't want to be around them because they get used up. They get wrung out as a sponge. And so they tend to be more isolated, more at risk of mental health issues or alcohol problems as compared to the mature. There's two others, I'm not going to tell you about those, but those are the kind of different ends of the spectrum as far as that goes. Yes, ma'am?
I wanted to share an experience that a friend of mine had, that in fact person she knows, and it could be a woman too, but this is a man who is working out chronically, totally trying to keep himself fit, and does a lot of things that he used to do when he was young, but he's hurting himself.
Right.
And, you know, same thing with older woman, like, 14, facelift, surgery,
Yeah.
whatever. What can you do or say to people in their lives that are just so struggling to stay at least looking and presenting themselves as young?
Vanity.
No, yes, it's vanity, but that's a hard one because that person's concept of self is built on an exoskeleton that is changing on them no matter what they do,
Right.
and they're always going to lose to this aging thing, and that's the sad part of it. I don't care how far you run and how you do. If you're doing it to stay healthy, awesome. If you're doing it to beat aging, you're going to lose that deal every time. So that's what I would say, and look to see if there's any spark in their eye that I could continue that discussion in a different way to try to reinforce what I just said for them. Sometimes that's, people's self-worth is built around what they look like on the outside, You look marvelous. Better to look good than be good, the kind of stuff. And that's sad.
Could you recommend like therapy or?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Try to get them there, though.
I know.
I'm not broken.
I know.
I'm a tennis player. I've been playing tennis for 75 years. And I play tennis not because I enjoy it. I need to beat the other person so that I feel better. I'm going to make a lot of money on this person. As a therapist, we got a lot of work to do. Yes?
Is there therapy for people who are aging and struggling with it? Is there some type of counseling or?
Sure. Some counselors, some doctors understand this, geriatricians. Let me give you have to find them. There's not a lot. There's not a lot of gerontologists. That's why I've loved being a gerontologist all my life, because nobody knew what I did. Even when I came here, I'm like, I'm a gerontologist, really? What do you do? Watch me. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll do something good. And I have free run to try to create and do different things because nobody can compare me. Well, the other gerontologist guy I know, he doesn't do that. You don't know one, do you? No. So then let me do what I want to do. This is perfect in my life for my personality. This is the way I like. Let me give you a definition of aging, and then I'm going to wrap up. I could stay, but whatever. I'll take questions at the end if you want to come up. There's a million definitions of aging, but Strahler, a researcher, said 3 things have to happen for something to be considered normal. Notice I'm talking about normal aging. 3 things have to happen for something to be considered normal. One is what's happening has to be negative to your body. Aging is about decline. We reach our peak performance in our 20s, maturation. Then we stay in maturity until what age?
50.
And I have to tell you, the older the audience, the higher this number is when you shout it out.
70.
Yeah, no, 30. We reach peak performance in 20s, we maintain peak performance till our 30s, and then we see normal age-related decline. Some of us age like this. That's bad for the rest of us. It ruins the average. What we want to do is we want that slope to be a little bit more gradual, and that the normal age-relating changes that happen to our body happen slowly, more slowly over time. The other thing is, it has to be universal. Has to happen to everyone. As I get older, there's a greater chance that I might get cancer. Just because of the way cells reproduce, it's replicate, blah, blah, blah. But, so you have a greater chance of getting cancer as you get older, but not all older people get cancer, so you can't say getting cancer is a normal part of aging. Did you follow me on that? It has to be universal, has to happen to everyone. And the other thing is, it has to be internal. It has to be internal, not that I worked in a coal mine, not that I worked in a stressful job, not that when I was younger I thought it was a good idea to take tin foil, slather myself with baby oil, and lay in the sun and fry myself. That's external aging. That's not internal aging. So decline, internal, and universal has to happen to everyone. And I'll tell you one joke and then we'll be done. There's this guy, Jake, from Maine, and I didn't even get into healthcare. He's 86 years old. He goes to see the doctor. And the doctor gives him a pat on the back, stick in the mouth exam, you know, "Oh, Jake, what brings you in here today?" And Jake goes, "Oh, geez, doctor, my right knee is killing me." And he goes, "Oh, okay, Jake," you know, kind of condescending pat on the back, simple exam. And he goes, "Well, Jake, you know, all I can tell you is you're 86, and you got to expect these things." And Jake looks at his doctor and he goes, "Yeah, okay. Well, doctor, near as I can tell, my left knee's 86 years old too, and it feels fine." So if you go see a doctor who tells you you've got to expect these things as you get older, maybe look around for another doctor, because that's a little shallow in terms of an answer. All right, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.